Crucible, Arthur Miller, Witchcraft.
Yep. Witch trials.
Witch trials
Yeah.
that were a not so thinly veiled metaphor for the McCarthy hearings.
Exactly.
At the time of the McCarthy.
And
hearings.
I played an old man. I played an old man named Giles Corey who is accused of being a witch and is stoned to death. So that was very funny for me and my friends. That my friend Al McIntosh played the judge who gets to sentence me to stoning to death, and we laughed. I think we did 5 performances. We laughed every time.
During the performance?
Yeah. I mean, it was absurd. I had baby powder in my hair to make me look like it was.
Now, please tell me this was a 3rd grade play.
No, it wasn't. This was high school. This was.
I'd love to if the Crucible was being done in an elementary school.
That would be amazing. Yeah.
Has anyone tried that? That sounds like something that you might try to do. I'm pitching that idea to you.
It's sort of Rushmore, isn't it?
Oh, I guess that's true.
Yeah.
But even younger. Did they do that in Rushmore? How old?
I mean, they were like little kids, I think. I mean,
shit. So
I gotta watch. Yeah, well, you should pitch Rushmore.
Right. Again.
Yeah.
Again, just to retitle it and maybe pitch it to Wes Anderson.
Right. That would be great.
Are you a Wes Anderson fan?
I am. I can't say I'm not. I enjoy. Actually, I've liked all his movies less. He's sort of like M. Night Shyamalan in some respects, where like me and Bottle Rocket is one of my favorite movies,
right?
And it gets more and more Wes Anderson each time, and some people really like that.
Yeah, but I think that the career trajectory, the arc, is
completely
up.
opposite. Right.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
If you were to look at a graph
right.
of Wes Anderson and F. Night Shyamalan,
yeah, it's close enough.
Yeah, they'd be like crossing in the middle.
Right.
Yeah. My guess is Joe Mande. We're in New York. We're in the offices of OWA, which is Olivia Wingate Artists. This is my studio away from home. It's the first time I've ever recorded in here.
Really?
I'm
honored.
It's a Virgin episode recorded from Broadway and Bond Street.
And because I'm a virgin, so it all.
Are you still?
Yeah.
Holy shit!
Yeah.
I would have made that assumption, but I would have felt like I would be slighting you,
yeah,
making
I know.
fun of
I
you.
get it a lot
in a hackneyed way.
Right.
Now, I'm a fan of your comedy. I sing your praises.
Thank you. Really, I appreciate that because you don't do that often.
No, I don't do it often. And oddly, for some reason, I thought and I think we talked about this on the live one briefly. I can't remember. Yeah, I thought we had tension between us.
There was no real tension. I've been a fan for a long time, and I came up to you at a show once and was trying to tell you my life story because there's a lot of overlap. And
because we're from Albuquerque.
Yes, we're both from Albuquerque.
So that was you. See, because there was something that happened. I think I asked you. I wrote you an email to write on the break room live thing.
Yes.
And you were like, "No, I've got a writing job."
Oh, was I? Well,
And then I thought to myself, is this the same guy that came up to me and was so nice to me? Like the way you handled that email, I was like, who the fuck, And then I thought, it can't be the same guy.
Really?
Because when I met that guy, he was so nice to me. We come from Albuquerque. Then I started asking around. I'm like, do you know a comic from Albuquerque? I thought it was Joe Mande. And then.
Well, see, because I'm not actually. I mean, I'm from
Minnesota.
Minnesota.
No, but you were nice to me.
Yeah.
And I guess in my mind, I thought that guy would drop everything to write on my
I think we both have that.
TV
show. I write. You write curt responses too to emails.
Do.
I mean, it's just how I sort of. If I don't reply like that, I'll forget and never reply to anyone because I'm always on my phone.
That's right. It's a matter of pace.
Yeah.
And I do curt responses. And then when I get them, I'm like, fuck him.
Right.
It's so easy
exactly
to misunderstand the tone of email because there isn't unless you actually invest.
Yes, it kills me because I'm very sarcastic, and that is the hardest thing to convey.
Yeah, but I think that because you're sarcastic, I would imagine that any email anyone gets from you, they're
right,
like listening.
Especially if it's sincere. Like I wasn't trying to be a jerk. I was I was writing. I think at the time.
I'll get back to you. Like, sure, I'll get back to you.
Right. Yeah,
because it's Joe Mande.
Exactly. Yeah.
Have you had any misunderstood emails that have gotten you in trouble?
Let me think. Not that I can remember. It's all I can always take care of it in person. But I mean, all the time that nothing comes to mind. There's no calamity though.
Have you ever misread an email? I've had that where I like from a woman where I thought it was loaded.
Right.
With sexual implications, and it was probably just sort of like, coffee sounds good, and I'm like, yeah, hell yeah, I want to fuck you, know, and she's like, I think you misunderstood.
That's hilarious.
It's ridiculous. You've gotten you're I didn't really realize until recently what a troublemaker you are.
Oh yeah,
you get off on publicly busting balls.
It's true. I think you're speaking of my Twitter account. Yeah, that.
What was that about?
I was sort of morally opposed to Twitter for the longest time, and I found it kind of sort of gross and indulgent, and it is completely. But I joined it when I found out that people like senators and famous athletes are on there and like interact with people, because it is this weird forum where you can pretty much say anything and there's no real consequence. So I mean, I joined it and I thought, I mean, I sort of avoided joining Twitter at first because I thought it would kind of bring out the bad sides of my personality. Like, I would be so obsessed with how many followers I had.
Sure.
I'm like, fuck, that guy has like 10,000 followers. Who's he? Like, I thought that would be my obsession, and it's really not. I don't care how many followers I have.
Good for you. You've overcome.
Thank you.
Like,
yeah.
I hit a number of followers where I stopped caring.
Really? Yeah. I mean, obviously there's still a twinge of that, but I sort of ignore it.
How many you got?
I think I'm over 5,000 now. I
No,
mean, that's not much, but I literally just do it to go after people I find annoying. So yeah, I go after senators and
what's happened? What are some
dumb rappers.
incidents?
I just get blocked. I mean, I find out.
Oh,
that,
really?
Yeah, but I mean, that's a great feeling to have David Vitter block you.
Actively
on Twitter.
say no. Let's
Yeah,
just
Cindy
lose
McCain. Cindy McCain blocked me after one tweet, and it was like it wasn't even anything. So she just knew what I was up to immediately.
I always engage. I have to struggle to engage with people, with haters.
Right.
Because there's some sort of surge that happens.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's a rush where, and I know no matter how smart I am or how clever I think I'm being, as soon as you engage, you're fucked.
You're done. Right.
Because they can just turn it on you.
Right.
Because they've sucked you in.
Yeah. And I don't have that side of it because I'm the hater, you know.
Right.
But I'm going after people who probably deserve it, so I can live with it.
And you don't get compulsively engaged?
I got into a really bizarre Twitter war with this guy named Jesse Camp, who used to be an MTV VJ, and he's just like just a lunatic. And the funny thing about our interaction was that I never said anything mean to him. Like, he just kept digging himself. He was so upset, and he's so fundamentally.
Well, what happened?
Well, I was drunk one night at a bar, and I wrote on Twitter. I was talking about Jesse Camp with a friend, and I just wrote, like, is Jesse Camp on Twitter?
Right.
And then someone wrote me back and was like, yes, and send me his profile. And then, and for a while, I was just retweeting things he wrote without commentary, just because they were insane, you know?
Really?
Yeah, just, like, so weird.
Yeah.
Just him complaining about his friend Brian. He's like saying, I'm outside the library. The library's closed. Where's Brian?
Yeah.
So I would just retweet that because, like, what is this guy's life, you know? And then he eventually, at one point, he wrote, like, who the fuck is Joe Mande?
You just
Right? Out of nowhere. And because I guess he saw that I was
kept
right.
retweeting.
And then I wrote, like, I was like, hi, Jesse. Like, and that's it. I just said, hi, Jesse. And then he wrote back and he was like, you know what? I'm going to sue you if you keep retweeting me because this is all copywritten and it's my property. And then
So you tweeted that?
Obviously.
He did that in public forum.
Yeah, he did that. He said, I'll sue you if you keep retweeting me. And then I retweeted it and I said, see you in court, you know, stuff like that. And it was never that mean, but I was just like, you know, and
it started with nothing.
It started with nothing. And it went on for like 2 days. It was hilarious because he always responded. Right. And then it was so funny.
Well, that's sort of an interesting thing about you is that you can sense the humor, the inherent humor in something that is fairly. It's just indicative of a ridiculous life. I mean, just to retweet, where's Brian on some level wouldn't. No, I don't think that everybody would see that and go, "This is ridiculous."
Right.
But it's ridiculous because it's his has-been,
and
who knows what his life is like. And then it actually pushed his buttons, and it served to do exactly what you set out to do, to make him realize that his life is small and ridiculous.
Right. And my new thing now is I follow a lot of corporate Twitter accounts because all these corporations have
that worked for me.
Yeah.
And what have you gotten? What are some results?
Well, I just recently I've been replying. The White Castle corporate Twitter account is always asking these questions with fill in the blank answers, and I always just write the most morbid, depressing stuff. So
like
they're like
commentary for their hamburgers.
Yeah, they're like,
stuff?
"Hey, Cravers, what are you doing this weekend?"
Yeah.
And then I'm just gonna stay in my room and stare at candles, And then they wrote me back and they were like, "Oh, that sounds fun. Is it White Castle scented candles?"
Oh, yeah,
and I was like, "They might be because they smell disgusting."
Yeah.
So I just
and then what happens?
They probably blocked me. I don't know.
Well, the interesting thing about corporations claiming the personhood that they're availed legally and just trying to engage among us, obviously for promotional purposes, is that I had an issue with Virgin America.
Right. Yeah, I saw that.
And I got, because of the number of followers, I have to assume it was because of that. I got immediate response.
That's amazing.
It was just basically, why did they, separate me and my girlfriend, without telling us? And they corrected it, and they gave us, main cabin the good seats, not
Right.
first class, but the second down. And I just think it's interesting that does give us a certain amount of power if you have the followers,
Right.
If you have some momentum,
Gravitas, yeah.
But you can really get action done.
That's awesome. I mean, that's sort of why I pursued this lifestyle in the first place, is just to be able to skip lines and stuff. Like I'm not going to wait in line for anything. It's a really gross part of.
That's why you pursued what, celebrity?
Not celebrity. I mean, just like, well, yeah. I mean, just show business in
special,
general.
right.
Yeah, because I'm special.
And how's that panning out?
Yeah, it's going all right.
Where have you found that it has actually worked in your favor?
Mostly just comedy shows, nothing else.
You can get your own soda at a couple places?
Right, exactly.
Finally, you've
really-
earned the ability to go,
Right.
yeah, I'm a comic. And
I mean, I'm still working on it. Hopefully in the next few years I can.
What are you working on right now?
Right now I'm just sort of doing stand-up, doing the odd writing job here and there.
Like, what have you written on?
I just finished writing a pilot thing for Reggie Watts
Oh, okay.
with Jesse Klein. She and I were the writers.
So you've been to this office before?
I haven't actually. No.
Well, now you know Reggie's manager.
Yeah, we met. Yeah, I know Olivia, but we met at Reggie's like super cool hotel room every day. That was our writing.
Oh yeah, you were staying in one of the upscale places.
He was staying at this place that like I thought I would be patted down to make, because Jesse and I were both just not cool enough to be in this hotel. I've never seen anything like it, and it was a spaceship. It was a spaceship.
Oh really?
Yeah.
It was here in New York.
Yeah.
Which hotel?
The Standard.
Right, I've stayed there. Right.
Yeah.
So he was working at
Well,
comics, or he put himself up there.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't really know what the situation was, but
The weird thing about those hotels, as spectacular as they may seem and as great as they are, they're kind of impractical.
Totally, yeah.
I was at the Standard, and they've got the design, so the bathroom, the sink and everything is like basically in the shower.
Yes.
And I was in a room there where you could not, the water would go all over the place. It made it dangerous to be in the bathroom. Some of it would overflow onto the rug. And we said, look, you should provide squeegees in those rooms where you have fucked up the showers.
Right.
And of course they go, oh, that's a very interesting suggestion. We'll make note of that.
Yeah.
So
No.
I would rather stay in a Marriott Suites hotel where I have a refrigerator and a microwave, and some of them have stoves or an extended stay. See, when you really start working the road, that's where the real payoff is going to be.
What, stoves?
Yeah, stoves in hotel rooms.
Sweet. I look forward to that.
So when you get to a particular town, if you're there for 3 days, you're not held hostage to the dietary restrictions of corporate food court.
Yeah, that's
food.
the worst. Because I cannot handle that. I have the most sensitive stomach. I can't do that.
I know. Didn't I bring you somewhere and you had a problem?
Always. I mean, probably.
Where
yeah.
did we? Where was that? In Vancouver? Did we go?
Oh yeah. I had fried scallops. Like I should have known better.
Oh no, Seattle.
I
Yeah.
was in Seattle. Yeah.
Really?
Oh, immediately. Like I finished my meal and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna go. Yeah, I gotta go.
Oh, that's right. You couldn't even make it out to the Pikes.
Nope. I was done for the most of the afternoon.
Is that clinical? I mean, can you treat it or what?
I mean, in high school, they thought I had the most like severe case of IBS they'd ever seen. They thought it was stomach cancer, because I literally for about 4 years woke up every morning with just explosive diarrhea. Every morning. That was just my part of my routine.
Have you got any good shitting in public stories in your pants?
There was one time. Actually, there was one time I was on a conclave.
Sorry, being insensitive.
No, it's fine. It's my life, shitting all the time. I was at this thing for my Jewish youth group when I was like 15.
Jewish youth group stories.
Yeah, and we were on a bus in Wisconsin, and we had just gone to Taco Bell. So already red flags.
Did you know when you were eating it that?
It's always like sort of Russian roulette with Mexican food.
Yeah.
Mexican roulette.
Yeah.
And immediately I just knew I had to go, and it was like in a school bus.
Yeah.
So there was no bathroom, and I had to go up to my rabbi, the front of the bus, and say, bad things are happening to me. We really need to pull over at the next rest stop. And he was like, yeah, I'll make sure of it. So we went back. I went back to the back of the bus, and the rest stop was 5 miles ahead. And I'm just like, pacing, and then the bus driver just blew right past it. And the next rest stop wasn't for like 45 miles. And I didn't know, my body was going to explode,
Yeah.
And to this day, I can't listen to Tom Petty without thinking, of I put on the Wildflowers album, and I, like the only time I've ever successfully meditated. But I meditated for those 45 minutes to the next rest stop and ran. And my friend was in the bathroom and he said he's never heard a human body make those kinds of noises. I was in there everyone on the bus is waiting for me. I was in there for like 35 minutes just
so that
evacuating.
Is an amazing testament to the power of meditation and complete fear of peer judgment.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I mean, I probably hurt my body in the long run the way I was clenching every muscle.
That is a superhuman feat. That is almost Nietzschean.
I still to this day I don't know how I did it because it was bad.
I guess the power of being the guy that shit in the back of the school bus for the rest of your life
forever. Yeah.
And was this the beginning of the trip?
That we were on our way back to.
So you made it. You were cool the whole time. Like people still thought the same of you. You were Joe Mande.
Well, they knew I was in there they knew something was up. I was.
But like if you had, like, it's amazing to me that those kind of things can define. I mean, literally, it would have defined the future.
Oh,
of your
totally.
life.
Yeah, and actually, my high school, I went to a really just insane high school, and you could not take a shit in my high school because if anyone saw, like, the bathrooms were sort of wide open if you walked in, and if anyone saw legs dangling or if they saw legs under the stall, then you were going to get tortured. People would throw like wet toilet paper at you and
just for shitting.
So
what kind of high school is that?
I went, yeah.
I kind of remember that though. That I remember situations where I don't know if it was high school, but there was one situation where they didn't even have doors on the stalls.
Right. It wasn't that bad, but I mean, usually what would happen, and I actually, 9th grade, I took a couple shits in high school and then vowed never again, because people would kick the door open, laugh at you, throw stuff at you. It was terrifying.
Oh, so you're saying they would throw shit at you in the bathroom?
Yeah, not like shit, not
no, but it wouldn't happen in this, like in the classroom or something.
No, but what would happen too is if you came out, there would always be some dude who would see you walk out and then just walk behind you down the hallway, be like, "Yo, that dude took a shit. That dude took a shit." So you just be like, this awful, shameful feeling of.
Don't you ever wonder what drives those people?
It is kind of funny. I mean, like, you have to realize I was like 4 feet tall in braces and sweater.
Oh, really?
vest. I mean, like, I was.
So you had
an easy kid. Yeah,
in high school.
It was easy.
Oh my God! How much hate built up from that era of your life?
Man, my high school years were.
Like, you were short. Had braces,
I was short.
You're
Not only
Jewish,
that, I went.
wore glasses.
I went to St. Paul Central High School, which
where
in St. Paul, Minnesota. St. Paul Central, which had it has a reputation for being sort of a rough. I mean, it's like the movie Dangerous Minds.
Yeah,
it was like that school, but with like an honors program.
Right.
So like it actually had this like kind of apartheid vibe to the school, where like the white kids took the white kids and the Asian girls took honors classes, and everyone else took regular classes
and hated those honors.
And it was just there was just some tension, like, and the honors classes tended to be on the top 2 floors because. Cream rises to the top or whatever, and and there was a little. It was just strange.
Yeah.
The whole vibe was very strange, and there used to be race riots before I got there. So I mean, that was like we had a daycare.
Oh, right.
Yeah, and actually our football field had barbed wire surrounding it, but the barbed wire went in. So, like, why would you want to keep people in the football field, not out of it? You know what I mean?
They were probably preparing just in case some other riot situation happened. They would just,
Right. I mean, like the rumor. I don't know if this is true, but the rumor was that the architect who designed our school also designed the prison in Stillwater, Minnesota.
Say also designed Auschwitz.
Right. It was sort of like a modern looking building, but like the doors would magnetically lock during class and stuff. It was very just like. Prison-like, you know?
So this is one of those situations where they did an architectural experiment with one of the more difficult schools and said that, give it these elements of securing it.
And my dad, when I was in 9th grade, my dad's job was he put kids in prison. Like, he was a juvenile prosecutor, right? So, like, my 3rd day of school, I got lost in a hallway, and this giant dude just grabbed me by my neck and threw me against the locker and was like, "Your dad put my cousin in prison." And I
Oh
was
my
just
God!
like,
So you were in prison.
yeah, and I was like, I didn't know. I was just like, yeah, and he's a dick, you know.
You sold your dad out like that.
He was like, he makes me mow the lawn.
Yeah, that fucker.
We have a huge lawn.
Oh, that's great. It just immediately threw dad under the bus.
Like, what? Yeah,
You got to.
Yeah, you have to. And I mean, yeah, and that was like part of the point of my life where I didn't. Both of my parents were trial lawyers, so I just there was a few years where I just didn't talk to my parents because they would just, oh man, between my sister and I, we would just get cross-examined on everything.
Oh my God,
that was just how we were raised, just constant.
So always looking for the lie.
They were always looking for the lie. Even that, it was crazy. So, and my parents are much.
They never
better.
said that my client, my son.
Basically, I mean, but like we would be sitting at a dinner table, and if they smelled anything fishy, they were back on the clock and just grilling us until they figured out what the issue was or whatever. And so,
oh my God,
and my sister and I both handled that in different ways because I think from 7th to 10th grade, I just basically just pleaded the fifth on everything. You know what I mean? I just didn't talk to them because I didn't want to incriminate myself. So I really there's a few years where I hardly ever talked to my parents.
Just out of fear of being grilled.
Yeah, and my sister, on the other hand, she sort of just pled insanity. My sister was just this like wall of noise. She just like everything was just anytime my parents tried to confront her on it, she'd just scream and slam her door. And I'm kind of jealous. Actually, that's a much better tactic. I just internalized everything and yeah.
Well, that's interesting that it's a unique take on the boundaryless intrusiveness of parents.
Mm-hmm.
That you're not in a situation where there's clearly emotional interdependence or that type of boundarylessness, but they're literally like they will take all of their skill and craft from years of prosecutorial.
Really good at it too.
Oh, they both were really good.
Yeah,
and that's relentless.
It was that's the exact word, relentless. It was just insane. And it's funny now that like my parents have totally. I think my whole family sort of chilled out,
right.
And we're all older. And my dad actually is sort of retired from law and is now starting his own dog training business.
The dream.
Right? Yeah, the dream. And so
he's got to control something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And my dad actually, we had this funny moment last year where he had just taken all these really kind of intensive courses on it's kind of animal behavioral stuff, you know, and he was learning a lot about dog training.
He didn't ask you to get in a box.
No. But he did sort of come up to me and apologize for how he treated me as a kid. How everything he does with dogs now is all about positive reinforcement, and he was sort of apologizing
that he didn't
for
treat
being
you more like a dog.
Yeah, exactly. I was like that. It was kind of this touching thing where my dad sort of, he's very touching thing. He's trying to, tell me this. He's very sorry, but I was like, okay, that's great, but now I know you think of me as a dog.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And then after he said that, he said, "Come here, boy." And he,
right.
he rubbed your head.
Gave me a liver treat. It was delicious.
But how did you as a comic, and as somebody that, I had some liabilities. I mean, I had braces. I don't. You seem to be a little more disciplined than I am. I don't. What were you like in high school in terms of education? Were you a nerd?
I was. I've always been sort of an intellectual idiot. You know what I mean? That was always sort of. I was smart and I got good grades, but I was always doing stupid things to get attention. In fact, I ended up running for student council. We had like a student council president, sort of like a student council oligarchy. That was sort of how our school, and so there were 10 people who were in charge of the student council, and I ran and won, and my campaign was just utter ridiculousness. Just all my posters were pictures of me and Kathy Lee Gifford, and nothing made any sense, and it was clearly I was the anti-candidate, and I won, and I literally only did that so I could get a card to leave school and go use the bathroom at my house. Like, it was a complete cynical use of political power, but I needed that card to get it, because otherwise, I mean, I spent sophomore and junior year just skipping school if I was having problems, so I was like, I saw an opportunity. And
so your whole life has really been defined by your sphincter.
Oh, completely. Yeah. I mean, up until, I sort of manage it now. I take fiber pills every day, and that sort of,
it works.
It's magic. Yeah.
So you got the card, so you could just at any time say, I got to go home.
Yes.
And spend some
Official
time in the
school.
So that
business.
whole shitting at school thing, the fact that it was such a social liability was just torture for you.
It was crazy. Yeah. I was late. I mean, most of my problems happen early in the morning because it's stress induced, my stomach problems. So it's still to this day, like if I have to wake up too early for like going to the airport, I have to make sure
You give yourself
I factor
time.
in like an extra 40.
Now, what about performing? I mean, when you have larger performing opportunities, are you one of those people that?
No,
sort of like,
well, when I first started, I had problems for sure, but yeah, I've never had like real stage fright, so that was never really going up on stage wasn't.
But what about haven't you had the fear of things not working?
Initially at first,
Really,
yeah.
you sort of just were able to take the stage and not have that sort of you. Oh, that's interesting.
Mm-hmm. I mean, even when I was back in junior high, I would, I ran for student council, and there was a big speech, and I had no problem with that.
Did you kill?
I killed. Yeah, I killed. I literally was just like, because you got to go to these citywide student council meetings and eat free pizza.
And go to the bathroom.
I was just
there.
like, I want to eat free pizza, and people were like, yes, okay.
Go to the bathroom in other
Yeah,
places,
exactly.
other cities,
Yeah,
other parts of town.
right, all over St. Paul.
Did you like when you were out with your friends? Did you know where the good bathrooms were?
Oh yeah, I mean, for sure. I have a mental map of Manhattan. I know every bathroom. Yeah, yeah.
It's hard here.
It is.
Yeah, I mean the go-to place used to be the Barnes and Noble, but sometimes you never know when you're going to walk into a homeless
situation. Yeah, had a few of those. And then feeling you're interrupting,
Yeah.
I wouldn't want anyone to do that when I'm.
So there's an understanding, I imagine, between people with irritable bowel syndrome and homeless bathing rituals.
Yeah.
Manhattan.
There's a lot of you meet a lot of interesting people.
So I guess what I'm getting at is in high school, as a comic, usually you find some way to ingratiate yourself to those that would torture you.
Yeah, I mean, I think junior year I ended up winning like class clown. I was my high school had an improv troupe, and my whole comedy career came out of some dude sort of dismissing me when I said I wanted to run, try out for the improv team at my high school. He was like, "Wow, you're not funny." And to this day, I mean, like that's the reason I was just like, "Fuck you."
So
yeah,
I guess that's why I related to you, and maybe we're kindred spirits. Is that a lot of your life was fueled by spite?
Oh yeah, yes, yeah.
Spite against those who would condescend and judge.
Right.
But were you able to sort of baffle and ingratiate yourself to the more menacing of the jocks and perhaps the more
I mean, my
menacing
favorite
of
story,
the bad element?
My favorite story of that, in ninth grade, I took Spanish in high school. It was the only non-honors class I ever took, and I showed up the first day, ninth grade, so I was very short and braces and sweater vest. I don't know why I wore sweater vests. And
Who made you do that?
What? I thought it was cool. And I got into Spanish the first day of class, and it was just me and it was like me and like the JV basketball team. That was the class basically.
Right.
And I was like, it'll be fine. I listened to Outkast or whatever, and I sit down, and they were just ruthless. They would make fun of me. They would call me names. They would choke me. I got choked a lot, but it was never violent. They just would come up from behind when I wasn't expecting it and like wrap. Sometimes it was like piano wire. They had piano wire. They would like wrap wire around my neck, and I would freak out. Obviously,
yeah.
And then they would let go and just crack up. They'd be like, "Ah, ha, ha, you stupid!"
Yeah.
And he's like, "Oh,
he's fighting for the right reason."
Right.
What an idiot.
Right. What an idiot. I was like, how stupid of me to freak out.
Yeah.
So it was bad, and they would throw like empty cans of soda at my head and stuff. And it sucked.
And the teacher just let this happen?
Yeah, our teacher, that Spanish teacher was so broken. She was so done with life that she it was chaos.
Like when she was an older public school teacher.
Yeah, she looked like Newman from Seinfeld, so everyone called her Newman.
They
would call her Miss Newman, and she would respond to that. I mean, it was bad. And then that December, our principal made this big announcement that no more gambling was allowed in the hallways.
Was there gambling?
Yeah, people played dice in the hallways and stuff.
Oh my God!
And
what kind of fucking high school is
it was crazy. And there
were active dice games.
There were active dice games. There were like the Asian.
Come on, 7.
The Asian kids would have breakdance competitions in between classes,
in the hallway.
In the hallway, and I actually started doing this thing. I do it on stage sometimes too. I got really good at making it look like I was about to start breakdancing. because actually I was just trying to get through the hallway, right? But I would get in the middle of this like big circle, and it would be like my turn, and I would start like moving around to the music and like pumping my shirt and making it look like I was about, and I would just do it until they realized I was never gonna start break. And I would go for like 2 minutes without actually doing any dancing before they like pushed me out of the circle. God. But anyway, but back to the story. So our principal, she instituted this no gambling policy, and I saw an opportunity, and I went up to these kids in the back of my class, and I was like, I can teach you a gambling game that you'll never get in trouble for playing if you just stop choking me, right? And
it was that clear. There was a negotiation.
Yeah, it was a clear negotiation, and they thought about it, and the next day I taught them how to play dreidel for money.
Stop it.
I swear. Yeah. And so for like a good month outside my Spanish class, you would walk by and just see these black kids in like Averex jackets huddled over a top.
Over dreidel?
Yeah, just like, yo, that's a W, motherfucker. Pay up.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Were they gambling for chocolate coins?
No, they weren't.
For
real coins, for real paper money.
I wonder what Yahweh thought of that.
Yeah.
I think that but I thought that when you think about the history of the Jewish people and the Jewish scholars and the debate and Talmudic arguments that elevated and guaranteed the safety of a Jew.
Right.
You did something very proactive.
Yeah, who knows? Maybe they converted.
That's a W. I don't even know what's on a dreidel. So did you do the Hanukkah thing?
No, not really. I've sort of now that I'm away from my parents' judgment, I'm not too practicing.
Yeah, I don't know, if it's the same with you, but like as a Jew growing up in New Mexico, and you were there for a brief time.
For 11 years.
But having parents that come from Jews, but we were never really identified ourselves as anything but conservative.
Right.
There was still that sort of like, we're better than the Reform because they have an organ, singing.
We were, that was us.
Oh, you had the organ?
Yeah, probably.
And, but the weird thing coming out of it, outside of identifying myself culturally and following a certain number of the traditions because of family, and it was expected of you, I was never given any sense of God at all.
Yeah, I never bought into it, and
It's not even buying into it. No one ever said I had to pray. No one ever really, made me understand, what belief meant. It was never. I was never, and I'm grateful for it. It was never posited in my brain that God was something to be feared, or that God answered any questions whatsoever.
Right.
I mean, someone's got to drive that in.
Yeah, I never got that either.
I didn't get it at Hebrew school either.
I was Jewish growing up, like I went to Jewish summer camp and like youth group stuff, and never took that part of it seriously. I mean, if you drop my friends and I were just awful. Like when you drop a prayer book, you're supposed to kiss it.
Right.
We would drop it on purpose just to like make out with our, just going to second base with our prayer books. Like, we're just terrible, and
weird,
never took it seriously. And then I had this experience a couple it was 4 or 5 years ago. It was Passover, and I was doing the Passover thing to see if it meant anything to me, and I ended up getting conned by this Israeli guy for like $400 when I had no money, and the whole time he was like, it's a mitzvah, and I knew I was getting conned, but in my head I was like, maybe because the whole thing was like he was saying this guy was awful.
I don't understand. This guy was at a Seder. He was
running
an expensive
man.
Seder,
it was a straight up like I was waiting for a train. I was at work,
and it was over Passover.
It was over Passover. It was
okay,
like day
so you were aware of Passover.
I'm pissed off that I can't eat bread. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
so you're saying that like you followed the rules for Passover.
I was following the rules, yes, and I was seeing if it meant anything.
Right.
Because up until that point, like I was just doing it because I was expected to.
You go, you eat, and you do the plate, and there's something funny and kind of, endearing about if you're with family.
Yeah, but I wasn't. I was by myself in New York, and I was seeing, if I were
Mande search for meaning.
Right.
Yeah.
And then I definitely found it. This guy came up to me, and he was like, "Excuse me, are you Jewish? Are you Jewish?" And I feel bad, but I usually say no.
Oh, really?
Because I just don't.
I usually fight them to not make me do tefillin on the train.
Oh, right, but I know that's what they're going to do, and it's like,
so I also Hasidim?
Yeah, no, well, he wasn't. Normally it is. This guy looked like Michael Chiklis, right? Like a tan Michael Chiklis.
Okay.
And I was like, yeah. And he started telling me how at first he was just wanting to know if this was the train to Queens because he had to
Right.
get to LaGuardia.
Right.
And then he started telling me this weird story about his girl, his wife and his child were at this house in Astoria, and he was trying to get his shekels in order, and it just made no sense. And he was like, "Can you help me? It's a mitzvah. I just need you to go to this bank and help me convert shekels into dollars because I don't have a bank account in America." And I was like,
Wow.
Okay, sure, whatever.
This was a
man."
hustle designed for Jews.
It was it was, and it's also the worst hustle. Like when it got to the point where we surfaced, we were on 59th Street, and he started talking to me about he started asking me about my girlfriend and is she Jewish, and I said no, and then he was like, better dump her, and I was like, who are you,
Yeah.
and then
but yet you're following him to a bank.
Exactly, and then he's like, my grandparents didn't die in the Holocaust for you to date a Christian girl, and I was like, and then the whole time I'm like, they didn't. You're clearly a liar, you're a liar. But I'm trying to, but he's nailing home that it's a mitzvah. It's a mitzvah. I'm helping him. We're Jewish. We're achim. All this whole thing. So we get to the bank, and I'm like, okay, so give me your shekels, and then he was like, no, you misunderstand. I need money to turn into shekels, and I was like, "What are you? That's the opposite of what you said." And he told me he needed $400. He did the conversion rate. He said this many shekels, and then was like, "It's about 400." And at the time, also, I had a broken iPod, and I was actually waiting to buy a new iPod.
So you couldn't check the shekel to.
So
American
I don't know why I did this. I went and I got $400 out of my savings account. And I handed it. I was about to hand it to the guy, and then I was like, "Wait, I need your information." Because he said his name. First of all, he said his name was Israel from Israel, right? And then he owned the biggest falafel stand in Jerusalem. Like he was the worst con man in the world.
But you're falling for it.
I was completely knowingly.
But-
and I don't know why. To this day, I don't know why I did this. And so I gave him the money, and then he wrote on a deposit slip. It was all in Hebrew script, like Israel from Israel, a phone number with 30 digits.
Right.
And then he just walked away with all my money, and I was just like, I just gave that dude my iPod. That's my iPod.
Yeah.
And I was just like, just to see if I can trust this. I mean, I don't know why I did it. It bothers me so much, and I was like, well, at least I got a story out of it, and I did it. I told that story a few nights later on stage, and in the back of the room, I hear someone just freak out, and when I get off stage, it was Nick Kroll. This same dude conned Nick Kroll out of $250, on Tu B'Shvat or something. This guy knows how to find insecure 23-year-old Jews going through some sort of
spiritual crisis.
Yeah. So
it's a mitzvah.
It's a mitzvah. We're achim. Yeah.
That's another interesting story.
Yeah.
That you taught the Goliaths how to play dreidel for money.
Yes.
And then this is some other weird. I mean that story is like a parable.
It was, and also it was. I also had this very.
But how did you come to peace with it? I mean,
well, what I did was when I handed him the money, I said, "I just want you to know, if you don't pay me back, I don't believe in God. So you're gonna have to deal with that." Like some Cameron Crowe movie, you know what I mean? I'm just forcing this.
That was the best you could do.
Yeah.
Like the thing.
And then he was like, "Okay," and then just skipped away.
Care?
Yeah. What does he care? Exactly. And
it
was like this.
I was
forcing this huge plot point in my life. We will pay me back, or I don't believe in God. He cares if I believe in God, and then
So the real punchline of that story as a stage piece was that someone else had run into the same guy.
Well, now it is. I mean, at first I was just telling the story because I was trying to figure out if it was anything worthy of.
But in
But now, but Nick Kroll, it's so funny that
But because in my life, even today, there's something about our vulnerability. I come from you come from a family of litigators, which is interesting. So they call bullshit.
Yes.
And I come from a father who's very susceptible to being a mark. That he's a sucker. So most of my adult life, I know that I was brought up like that. That I'm easily suckered. So I've had to be vigilant,
really,
against having that sensitivity. And I'm not sure what it is. And I think part of it for me is that there's something impressive about hustlers. That you're sitting there, and it's like this. You're being played. And you're being played.
They commit 100%.
But you want to believe, even though in your mind. My father
guy, the whole time I was like, you are a liar. You're terrible at this. But I was strung along. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I don't know why. It was like hypnosis.
You're a smart guy. You can't figure out why.
No. Other than I needed a reason to not believe in God, and it was a selfish. If it's $400 for me to live with that, then whatever.
Like I'm trying, like there's some, because I had something like that happen to me, and it's sort of stuck in my craw. You know, like I bought, you know, like years ago, I bought pot on the street in San Francisco, or no, it was here in New York, from a junkie. But I wanted to buy pot, but I didn't do it, and I knew I was going to get burned. I knew there was no way I wasn't going to get burned.
Right? How does that guy have weed?
Right. So I came home and I had a big, you know, balloon full of garbage.
Right.
And I knew when I did it, and I think that on some level with that, maybe this is it. You never wanted to do that again, so you were going to pay $400 to
it
never
sort
have
of
that
felt
happen.
like that, because also I'm never going to find anyone that obviously.
But there's something about, you know, like there's something about, because, you know, I have to assume on some level you still fucking hate yourself for doing that.
Oh, so much.
So that feeling is enough to stop you.
Yeah.
You paid $400 to be wary of anyone's bullshit and not fall for
It
it.
very well could be. Yeah.
That's fucking interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and I guess that would be the parable, is that it cost you that much money to never do that again.
Right. I'm fine with that.
Yeah, because like the situation that I can relate to that is that, you know, my father has become this weird sort of like, you know,
Dog trainer?
no,
No,
not
okay.
a dog trainer. We went through that. My father, we bred, he was a dog shower.
Okay.
We had Old English sheepdogs, and we had one that was a champion. And my father was very into showing dogs.
Sure.
And we went through that as a family. You know,
Okay.
like, you know, 5 or 4 English sheepdogs at one time, and the very special one that we had to drive and hang out with dog show people. You know, he was prone to those sort of weird obsessive hobbies. That one included live dogs. But now he's like into alternative medicine, and he's very into this vitamin thing. And I went to one of these new agey type of expos with him, because his buddy, who manufactures a vitamin called the Memory Revitalizer, is someone he has aligned himself with. And, you know, this guy's like a weird kind of libertarian, you know, the FDA is on our ass. And he makes this vitamin that's got all this shit in it that's supposed to, you know, fight Alzheimer's. And my father obviously is very impressed with this character. And when I met him, I looked right through him. I said, this guy is fucking snake oil. This is the definition of snake oil salesman. This is what it really is. And I held that, you know, and I held that frame of mind. And then, you know, I don't know when it happened, but I am now buying vitamins directly from him.
That's hilarious. How's your memory?
I don't know if it's changed anything, but but with that kind of hustle, you know, you get involved with it, and then, like, you know, whether it's just the, you know, the regular ebb and flow of your neurotransmitters on a day-to-day basis, if you have a good day, because you're going to attribute it to,
Of course.
the vitamins. So then you get into this weird thing where you're afraid to stop, and that's how they get you.
It's also smart to have a villain like the federal government.
Well, yeah, you know, like, because my dad's like, yeah, they're always checking his shit. Are they checking his shit? I mean, he did just change the capsules from green to blue, which is a more attractive, you know, looking capsule.
Yeah.
But you got to take 6 of them, and, you know, that's it. You know, if you get hooked
That's
on
hard
them,
to remember, to take 6 memory pills.
well, if you do it every day,
Right.
you would hope that.
So it's sort of like Islam.
Is
Yeah. I mean, you have to take 6 pills different times every day.
it? No, you do it all at once.
Oh, you do it all at once. That's
Yeah.
nothing like Islam.
But, like, you know, to this day, I'm like, why am I doing this knowing that it's bullshit? Because there's part of me that thinks maybe it's not bullshit. Now, what happened when you tried to track that guy down?
I mean, I called that number, and of course, it was just like nothing, and sort of just gave up. I knew it was a lost cause.
So now, well, let's talk about the website and the book.
Sure.
What is it? Look at this fucking hipster.
Yeah.
How did that start?
It started actually with my parents came to town last year for my dad's birthday, and I took them out to dinner in my neighborhood in Williamsburg. And when they got off the train at North 7th Street, my dad's head exploded because he had no idea what he was looking at, you know. And my dad used to be a hippie, so he sort of has rationalized that, like, well, I was fighting, you know, it was a war going on, I was fighting the war, so like he kept that, like, who are these people? Who are
What do
these
they
hipsters?
stand for?
Yeah, he was like, are they against the war? And I was
Yeah.
like, no, I don't think so. You know, and the more questions he asked about hipsters, the more confused he got, and the harder it was to explain what I was surrounded by, you know, and so I told my dad when we were eating dinner that he should start a blog called "Is This a Hipster?" where he would take pictures of people in my neighborhood and then just underneath like yes or no, and then people could vote whether they were or not. And then I realized, shortly after dinner that my dad's never gonna be able to figure out like a blog, his software. So
or his new camera.
Well, he's actually very good adept with the camera, but also he lives in suburban Philadelphia, so there's no hipsters really, and. So then I started it like a week later. I started a website called Look at This Fucking Hipster, and just was taking pictures of people in my neighborhood. And it's one of those weird internet things that just I had no intention. It was just a thing for my friends and I and my dad, just a joke, and it just blew up kind of completely out of my hands. And I did no publicity for it or anything. Like the layout of the blog is just like the default settings. You know what I mean? I put no real effort into it.
It was just a yes or no question?
No, it was just pictures of people around Williamsburg, and then just funny captions underneath, like little quotations of what they would be saying or what I imagine them thinking.
Right.
And it was just like one of those. There was all this animosity towards hipsters, and it just blew up. And I felt very uneasy about it because even though I thought it was funny, like I had the problem like people liking it almost too much.
Right.
Where
you thought you're doing a disservice to your peers.
Well, I had no intention of it people becoming like. There's a guy on my website who became like people now call him Beans. Because I put a few pictures of him and I called him Beans because he looks like he should be called Beans.
Yeah.
So and he goes to a lot of concerts and people like get their picture taken with Beans and stuff. It's so bizarre.
Has he accepted it?
Yeah, I mean in my book he's got his own chapter. I had a professional photographer. He came into Brooklyn and we did like a full photo shoot with him.
You did what every hipster wants. Is you gave him a certain credibility and notoriety.
Yeah, and for us, he's not even really a hipster. He's just like this lunatic. But
so he was waiting for a nickname.
Oh man, he's the funniest guy. And so the blog it got really big, really quick, and I started getting like emails to my anonymous Gmail account from publishers saying, let's make this a book. And I was just like, I had no interest really in doing that. And then I got an email from a friend saying that there was some guy in New York that was going around town pitching my book, saying he was the author of the blog. So going into meetings and trying to get a book deal. The book I ended up writing was completely out of like a defensive stance where I was just like.
Did you find out who he was?
I don't know who the guy was.
You really don't?
I don't. I really don't.
It wasn't Beans.
It wasn't Beans.
So again, spite drove you to create.
Yeah, and defensiveness, yeah. And the book itself, it's funny. Like I ended up writing the whole thing in just a few weeks.
And has it sold well?
I think so. I mean, it's
hard to know what that.
It's hard to know. I mean, it's at Urban Outfitters and stuff, but I've always tried to separate that from my stand-up because what
are you gonna do? Bring slides on?
Right, and also it's just that's not my. It's fun. I mean, it's not really my thing. That's not my sense of humor, really. It's just
it's just it was a hooky
it was a
thing.
Side project I was working on.
Pictures are good. People like pictures.
Right. It was an easy thing.
It wasn't even a side project. It was this thing you just did as a fluke.
Right. Completely.
Now, let me ask you in a general sense about hipsters, because I've been working on a joke that that there's a confusion in terms of where some hipsters draw from historically. Like, I have a big problem with handlebar mustaches.
Mm-hmm. Of course, everyone should.
I have a problem with fedoras.
Mm-hmm.
And then I saw a guy with a handlebar mustache and a fedora, and I think he was like wearing jodhpurs or something.
Right.
And then like it occurred to me that it looks like he dressed quickly running through a time tunnel.
Yeah.
You think that'll work as a joke?
Yeah, that's funny.
And I don't like when obviously there's a resentment, and I have found in my life that a lot of that type of resentment, it's primarily based on the amount of effort put into their personal appearance.
Right. That
defines any sort of cultural meme at any given time.
Yeah.
And the hipsters seem to try to outdo each other with resources in terms of vintage facial hair, found.
Right.
Clothing.
They're all just trying to out silly each other.
Is it silliness though? Because I think some of these people are presenting themselves rather seriously.
Well, they are very serious about being silly. I mean, I don't really know. I can't really speak for them. But
right.
The funniest thing about hipsters to me is that no one is a hipster.
Right.
No one will. It's a slur.
Right.
So the biggest hipster in the world has come up to me. People who are textbook hipsters saying, "Oh, I hate hipsters. I love your book," and it's like, okay, dude.
Well, did you ever do any research? Is it etymology of the? I mean, I think that the word hipster really sort of came out of white guys hanging around black jazz clubs.
It was. I mean, I did some research, obviously, for my very important
Now I don't know
book
if etymology was the right word.
That is the right word.
Oh,
you
good.
nailed it.
Good.
But it started off as sort of like a jazz term,
right?
For, posers really, but people who were into the hip subculture, and
that kind of evolved into beatnik.
Yeah.
So that the history of the hipster is, the Cold War outsider. You got hipster, the jazz age white guy, and that evolved into the Cold War outsider. And now I think it's just evolved into, people who are trying with everything they have to look different than other people.
Sort of aimless.
And assume a posture.
Yeah.
That I think the real fallacy of it is that it means nothing other than what they're trying to do on an appearance level.
Right. And my biggest problem with it is that whenever you see any documentary or anything about the 60s, they show the same stock footage of like Haight-Ashbury and Jefferson Airplanes playing, and it's like these people with like flowers in their hair dancing in the park.
Yeah.
And I'm just afraid 30 or 40 years from now, it's all going to be stock footage of like Bedford and North 7, and Animal Collective's going to be playing. There's all these guys with like overalls and handlebar mustaches, and
you would
playing kickball.
You would hope that they even have that power of definition. I mean, I think that the reason that 60s footage is used is certainly now is it's almost mocking that that, like your father. I mean, they believed that taking the liberties to present themselves like that was an actual rebellious act,
right,
and identified themselves as a community with a cause, and they had one for real. What's sad about that culture now is that any time there's legitimate social outcry outside of them being forced to only be active in penned off areas that they designate for activism, is that the cameras on CNN will always go to like 9 people that look like wavy gravy and some squatters.
Right.
So it undermines everything. So that actual image of the hippie has now is clownish.
It is. Right.
And it's sad because they actually did something. I believe.
I mean, I
hipsters
comparatively, yeah. And I mean, and that's the thing is
that's what confused your father. Do they stand for anything?
Yeah, they're just clowns. I mean, when you look at what a clown is, they're clowns.
Yes. Absolutely.
They're serious clowns, which is the worst kind of clown.
Well, I actually have another question. The one thing that impresses me about your comedy is that it's literate, it's smart, it's long form. You seem to come from a tradition of what I will identify as Jewish monologists. Along the lines of Woody Allen and some, but a little more personal.
Right.
And that type. That type of comedian is rare now. In the 70s, back when New York dictated the cultural high point, and neurotic Jews were unmedicated, and the therapy was accepted across the world as being something that is possible and that is done, and that neurotic Jews do, and they talk about it. Is gone. It's been medicated away. It no longer exists as an archetype. And what's your success rate with this stuff? Because you seem to have figured out how to make it work for you.
Well, I don't take medicine, so I guess that helps.
Right.
I think I've sort of figured out what I like doing on stage, and it is sort of short stories,
Uh-huh. And do you have you tried to take it to people that are not like-minded?
I've been venturing out a little bit into. I did a thing in Vancouver recently, and I was
up there.
Right, I was there I think a week before you.
Uh-huh.
And it was like a club. It was like a clubby club, and it took me a couple days to feel it out and figure out what jokes worked. I mean, there's an attention span.
That's the biggest issue.
Yeah, I mean, people who are used to short one-liner,
simple things.
I don't mean to demean.
No. Yeah. There's nothing demeaning about it. But some people, joke structure is really about turning a phrase or a surprise ending.
There's nothing like that with me. I mean,
right.
Yeah.
So in order to sort of move through something that requires them to lock in and follow you, is different. You're really dealing with sophistication and attention span. But if you look at most one-liners or jokes, what they're waiting for is a surprise ending,
right,
or a poopy ending.
Yeah, and I'm going for a more visceral thing where I'm trying to tell a story and keep people along for the ride. And I've opened a few times for Biglia, and I've learned a lot of how he works, where he really does just try to hit jokes throughout the story,
right?
And that's something you really have to.
So what you do is what I do, and what people who tell stories do, is that at some point you have to identify, either consciously or not, this is the laugh place.
Yeah.
And you can dictate the rest of the story. Because I think when you first start with story form, you don't really know where they're going to come. And I'm still like that. There are times where I talk about something that's happened recently on stage, where people laugh, and then after the show I got to go like, why'd they laugh there? And can I make it happen again?
Right, right. And it's like, is it a face I made?
Yeah. Right. And that's the trickiest part about doing it that way.
Yeah,
but it's working.
I'm trying. I mean, I'm figuring it out. Things seem to be going all right.
Yeah. Have you done any television?
I've done like live at Gotham, essentially, but I'm waiting to do a late night show.
Are you Are you in line at Fallon's show, or
who knows? I don't really. My parents are so freaked out about that part of my life where I don't know how things work. I suppose I am. I know I've sent tapes in. I've talked to people, but
I can tell you honestly, as a guy who's been doing it a long time, the freaked outness will never go away.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. But my parents, my parents have been so cool about me being a comedian. They never pressured me. Yeah. So I think I would be a pretty good trial lawyer. Yeah. And they never, because I think ultimately, I think my dad wanted to be a comedian. He and all his friends.
Lawyers definitely do.
Yeah, they hang out at dinner parties and get bombed and tell war stories.
I used to do a joke about lawyers are creative, charismatic, entertaining people that didn't have the courage to follow their dreams, so now they're going to make everyone else pay for it.
Okay, well, I hope my parents don't hear that.
Does that make sense? I mean, I'm not saying it in a negative way. That most lawyers I've met that go the trial route are performers.
Oh, totally.
And many people, there's more so than other professions, have left law to do stand-up.
Yeah.
Al Lubell, Greg Giraldo, Mike. There's been several.
Right. Yeah. There is a performance aspect to it. For sure.
So your parents are a little more frightened than you are.
They are. I mean, they just think it's crazy what I'm doing, because they always ask me like, "What's the next thing?" And I was like, "I don't know. I'll figure it out."
You're a guy, I imagine. Management and people who are somehow taking care of your career are trying to move you towards writing.
They are. They're very very into. I'm an ideas guy. They say.
Yeah.